guys, welcome to the second video of this series, and today our main topic will be workouts and exercises. And I am no personal trainer. I don't know everything about workouts, but I do have a little bit of experience about the workouts I have done, and I can share my advice and tips on workouts, especially during the summer. And as this summer comes to an end, these workouts may be useful next year instead of this year because soon we're going to go back to school training. And just to get started, the first thing we'll be talking about this is how many days you should be working out. And I work out 4 days of the week and have 3 rest days. Now usually you want 2 to 3 rest days. Most people just do 2. I like having 3. And the days I work out is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Those days leave Wednesday out because usually I have midweek church, so it leaves that day out, and usually the weekends I'm busy with other things. So that helps clear out those days from running. But the rest of the days, I put some workouts there, and I assign each day to a specific workout. And usually for my schedule currently, I have Monday as my more speed work, which is the mile, and I will train for the mile on Monday. Tuesday, I do my 5K pace training. Wednesday, I take off. Thursday, I have a 2-mile training session, and Friday I have a 10K training session. And the way I train differently from other people is instead of just running the 1 mile, 2 mile, 5K, or 10K all on that day, no matter how fast I go. Since I have a treadmill, I run at that certain pace I want to run. So I run at that target pace on the treadmill for a certain amount of time that will get me to that distance. So let's say I need to run 11 minutes and 25 seconds. That's my current target goal for the 2 mile, and I will bump the speed up to 10.6 miles per hour, and that is the pace that will get me to that 11:25. And I run that so my training program right now says this week I have to run it for 7 minutes and 15 seconds. And soon it will build up the time to get to 11:25. So yeah, that's the training approach I do. And most people will do for this summer, what other people do is the summers for them are usually just mileage tolerance building, but I don't really do that too much. Um, it's 2 different ways you can. I train the same way year round. Other people train differently depending on what season it is and what part of the year they're in too. Right, like right now they're in off season, so right now they're just doing mileage building to help them with cross country and training for a more broad thing to help them in track also. But I mainly focus on the 4 main events that I do. I also do the 800, but I usually don't train for that. Um, I just train for those 4 events, and then it will help me get faster in those 4 events hopefully, rather than just make it a more broad training workout program. And I have been training since the beginning of the 4th grade. My dad's been training me because he was a personal trainer, so I haven't always used a regular coach at schools and things like that. So that is most of my training advice and experience. I don't have too much, but what I would say is you don't want to go all out every day, especially if you're trying to do an easy run, because Also, I have seen that a lot of people do the longer easy runs, and I don't do those, but I do recommend doing those mostly. Just kind of have that easy day to relieve fatigue from running while also being able to get out there and actually run. And these runs should be at a conversational pace, so you should be able to talk normally while running this at any distance or any point of the run. And it is usually a longer run than what you normally do, so it helps build mileage tolerance. And that is about all I can think about the workouts for running. Next thing we'll be talking about is a little bit about running structure and what good running form is during with running. And with running, you may see, especially with distance running, you may think, oh, there's not too much of a form when it comes to running. There is very much a form. It's just in the longer races, it's not very required because as much as like sprints as you might think. Because with a sprint, if you mess up one step, your race is basically done for. But with a 100-mile ultra marathon, if you mess up a little bit of form, it's nothing because of how long it is. And it's just that perspective of distance and everything. And a big thing about form is how you land your feet. And how you land your feet can say how you impact energy return and how much energy gets wasted for every step. And most runners, especially distance runners, run heel strike. Heel strike is where your heel lands on the ground first. And that is very common, but in distance running and really any running, you see in cartoons where the little people will lift their feet up on their heels to slow down. That's kind of what's happening when you're running. Your heel hits the ground first, and it kind of slows you down because it's putting more power away from you, which will slow you down. And a very effective way for distance running is usually a midfoot, which will then help with, it will help, like, it will go straight down instead of at a heel, and it will help save more energy in your body because it'll make you more efficient for each step. And also many sprinters use the forefoot strike, and the forefoot is just the front of the foot, and they land on the front of the foot when they sprint, and that is usually normal. And there's not too much to say about that. Now, I used to be a midfoot strike when I was in the 4th or 5th grade, but then as I got taller, it kind of just changed it back to heel foot. And you sort of can try to go to a midfoot from heel strike, but it's usually difficult and it's harder. It's just difficult to do. Another thing about running form is cadence. Cadence is how many steps per minute you're taking. And usually, cadence is dependent on by your speed. Usually, if you're running at a very easy pace, your cadence is going to be very low. If you're running at a very high pace, your cadence is most likely going to be very high. Because if you look at runners like yourself versus Usain Bolt, if you look at Usain Bolt when he did the 100-meter dash, you just saw his legs turning over so quickly, and he had hundreds of steps per minute in that moment. And it is usually more difficult to do trying to get near his pace for a longer distance because it burns more energy. But when you're having a higher cadence, usually from research says that whenever you higher cadence means lower stride length, and you may think that's really bad, but it is. Having a 1 centimeter stride length is not good, but if you had overstride, that can lead to injury, and it's kind of uncomfortable and burns useless energy. And having a higher cadence also helps, it just improves speed with running. And next thing we'll be talking about is the stride length. Stride length is very important if you're trying to become more efficient as a runner. And when you're trying to be more efficient, you want to usually increase stride length, but you don't want you don't want to overstride, because then that could lead to injury and it will just feel very uncomfortable and it will keep you out of form. And you want to have that perfect stride. So maybe going outside and finding a comfortable stride and cadence, just like go outside, experiment with everything, and then and then maybe if you have a watch, usually the watch will figure out your stride length and your cadence. Also, it should figure out other things too. Moving on to the next thing, we will do um, vertical oscillation. This is how far up you bounce when you first step, because whenever you're running, it's kind of like jumping, just you're going forward. And one thing about vertical oscillation, it's so whenever you're running, if you want to be an efficient runner in distance, you don't want to have too high a vertical oscillation. Now, if you have a 0 centimeter vertical oscillation, you're not going to be going forward because you're not getting off the ground. But if you have too high of a vertical oscillation, you're mainly just spending more energy going up than you are going forward. And usually you want to lower that, keep that low as possible without without losing forward speed or momentum. And there's not really too many ways to do that, except there are ways I found on the internet, and it says kind of imagine a ceiling above your head and you don't want to hit that ceiling. That's about all you can do too much, trying to stay lower. And another thing is the many runners like to lean forward. Now usually you do want to lean forward about a couple degrees, but you don't want to bend your back, because then that could lower the amount of that could make you feel sore, and it could also kind of slow you down with you out of form. You also don't want to lean back. You want to have a slight lean forward, just to keep the body kind of like, how sprinters run, they are running at an angle. You want to run, if you're doing distance, at a portion of that, because you're not trying to go as fast as a sprinter is. And that is about all I could say about form. So that is about everything I have for this episode, and I try to post every Wednesday, and I am trying to figure out a more permanent name for this series. I did find a name. It is called Built Different Podcast. I came up with that name. Let me know what y'all think about the names and what y'all like in the next video. Have a nice day.